Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm hoping that you can hear me. Can everybody hear me? Anyway, welcome to Readings with Regina. Let me know if you can hear me because I'm having a problem uh, finding out if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Upstairs, can you hear me? You can hear me on the video. Okay, cool. Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Reading with Regina. And I want to give a special shout out to all of my subscribers. I love you dearly. Every time I think about you, you make me smile. Now, before I actually get into the reading today, I want to say something that I think is very important. I want you to consider how and why you were sent to earth. That is very important. I want you to think about that all the time. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because we are living in a time of genocide, a genocide that we can see. Now, I don't really look at the mainstream news because the mainstream news is owned by the Pentagon. It's owned by this government that loves war. They love killing. They absolutely do. I could prove it repeatedly, but I don't want to take the time to do that. What I would advise you to do, though, is this. Read Murder Incorporated, Empire, Genocide, Manifest Destiny by Mumia Abu Jamal, a political prisoner, and Stephen Victoria, a historian journalist. Read that work. That's book one. Check this out. I even have book two, which is a monster. Book two, Murder Incorporated, Empire, Genocide, Manifest Destiny. Now, you might be wondering, well, why are you talking about? I'm talking about this right now because I absolutely, and so did you, if you heard it on the news, President Trump was in England. He gave a speech, and his speech left out the genocide, the empire, but it did concentrate on manifest destiny because President Trump talked about how England and America just, these are my words, not his, gave civilization to the world. Dig. But he did not say that civilization, so-called civilization to the world, was protruded on the genocide of the Native Americans here. Britain went all over the world genociding different countries. Now I'm going to pull back because this is Readings with Regina, and I do want to read to you. It is very important, but I needed to say that, okay? Because we are living in a genocide. Now, I am a Black nationalist freedom fighter, race first. That is what I believe, and I'm also a humanist. And I want you to know that millions of people worldwide are protesting against the genocide that the Israelis are perpetrating upon the Gazan people. Hello. And I do want to just emphasize that the Arab countries around Gaza are not doing much. Only the Yemeni people have fought Israel. And notice how Israelis and even Americans, oh, they won't say genocide. Oh, no. But I believe in God. And I don't think I was just sent here like a roll of the dice. So I had to speak to you today, brothers and sisters, about what we are living through, because what we are living through is the reason that we were sent to earth at this time. Feel me on that? All right, let me stop because, hey, I can take up to 30 minutes just talking to you about this because it is exceedingly important. But I do want this to stay within the enslavement period. But I had to speak out because there are people that are going on hunger strikes you might not know about. They are going on a hunger strike to protest. That is their way of protesting the genocide that we're living through. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to start with Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Y'all know Harriet Jacobs, Linda Brent. Her story is exceedingly important. Why? Because she was an actual enslaved woman. This is not fiction. This is her autobiography. And when I tell you about Harriet Jacobs, Linda Brent, got to mention Lydia Mariah Child, because she's the reason that we have this book. And understand this, my people. Readings with Regina was developed because books are important. And who's going to back me up on that? Linda Brent. All right, here we go. She's talking about how enslaved men in particular are made. She's talking about how the enslavers influenced Black psychology. And this is what she says. Some poor creatures, talking about Black men, have been so brutalized by the lash that they will sneak out of the way to give their masters free access to their wives and daughters. I really want y'all to understand that. Some brothers under slavery were so brutalized, dehumanized, that when the master wanted their wife or daughter, hey, they get out the way. Go ahead, take her. Take her. Because that's how severe the beatings were. Not only did they beat the living bejesus out of these brothers and sisters, they would pickle them. Okay? Like Linda's mistress said, pickling, they not only beat you so that your flesh is all cut up, then they pour a brine all over you. Like vinegar. Can you imagine that agony, my people? Can you imagine that agony, my people? So, these broken men would allow free access to their wives and daughters, free access to the enslavers. Do you think this proves the Black man to belong to an inferior order of beings? What would you be if you had been born and brought up a slave with generations of slaves for ancestors? Very important. And I want you all to think about that. I admit that the Black man is inferior, but what is it that makes him so? It is the ignorance in which white men compel him to live. It is the torturing whip that lashes manhood out of him. It is the fierce bloodhounds, I've shown you them, of the South, and the scarcely less cruel human bloodhounds in the North, who enforce the fugitive slave law. They do the work. Check it, check it, check it. They passed the law. This is why Congress and senators and all of that is important. They passed a law back then where any enslaved person that goes to the North, if any white person helps that person, they can go to jail, they can be fined, okay? And they can be brutalized as well. Their duty was to send, that enslaved person back south. And a group of bounty hunters would go after enslaved escapees for money and bring them back in chains if they caught them. And once again, if a white person helped, they lost job. They were ostracized by friends. Many went to jail, and some were even killed. Yes, that is the making of America, and I don't want you to forget it. Okay, where am I? I forgot where I was. Okay. All right. Let me see. Bloodhounds and the despised Negro hunters are employed to do at home. When Southerners go north, they are proud to do them honor. But the Northern man is not welcome south of Mason and Dixon's line, unless he suppresses every thought and feeling at variance with their peculiar institution. That's what slavery was called. Nor is it enough to be silent. The masters are not pleased unless they obtain a greater degree of subservience than that, and they are generally accommodated. Do they respect the Northerner for this? I trow not. Even the slaves despise a Northern man with Southern principles, and that is the class they generally see. When Northerners go to the South to reside, they prove very apt scholars. They soon imbibe the sentiments and disposition of their neighbors. They generally go beyond their teachers. Of the two, they are proverbially the hardest masters. They seem to satisfy their consciences with the doctrine that God created the African to be slaves. What a libel upon the Heavenly Father, who made of one blood all nations of men. And then, who are Africans? Who can measure the amount of Anglo-Saxon blood coursing in the veins of American slaves? I have spoken of the pain slaveholders take to give their slaves a bad opinion of the North. But notwithstanding this, intelligent slaves are aware that they have many friends in the free states. Even the most ignorant have some confused notions about it. They knew that I could read. Now listen to this. This is why Readings with Regina is created. Reading is important, people. Not looking at your phone. Not just reading from your phone, but reading books. Now, this isn't, in Linda Brent's work here, Harry Jacob. This is Regina talking now. But check this out. Enslaved people, knew that she could read. And I was often asked if I had seen anything in the newspapers about white folks over in the big North who were trying to give their freedom for them. Some believe that the abolitionists have already made them free and that it is established by law, but that their masters prevent the law from going into effect. One woman begged me to get a newspaper and read it over. This is why you should read to your children, grandchildren, neighborhood children, any children that are near you. She said her husband told her that black people had sent a word to the Queen of America, that's how they pronounced it, that they were all slaves, that she didn't believe it. And she went to Washington to see the president about it. They quarreled. She drew her sword upon him and swore that he should help her to make them all free. That poor ignorant woman thought that America was governed by a queen to whom the president was subordinate. I wish the president was subordinate to Queen Justice. Now look, this is what I mean about helping each other. Many of us just don't know a lot, even right now. That's why I'm doing Readings with Regina. And any word that I say that you don't understand or know about, look it up in a dictionary. Okay? Check it. Now I want to talk about the Queen. I love this woman. Ida B. Wells. Oh, she is the first investigative journalist who's a female. I'm not saying she's the first black. I said she's the first investigative journalist who was a woman. And what did she investigate? She investigated lynchings in America. And what else did she do that I admire? Girlfriend carried a pistol. Oh, yes. And she said if the enslavers, come at her, And I want you to know this too, because she spoke all across America, and she went to England and spoke against slavery and lynchings as well. Boom. When she would go to town, do you know there were brothers that would meet her at the railroad station, okay, and escort her safely to where she was supposed to speak? That's Black unity. That is Black power. Now, she was born, her parents were slaves. She was born in, I think, 1860, something like that, right on the cusp of when the Emancipation Proclamation came about. All right. So she wasn't exactly a slave herself, but her parents had been. So I wanted you to see this book that I'm going to read. It is her autobiography. And I'm just going to read a few excerpts. All right. In May 1884, as Ida was on her way to her school, this she was about 22, in Woodstock, Tennessee, the conductor on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad told her she would have to ride in the smoking car. She refused. When the conductor and baggage man attempted to force her to ride in the other coach, she got off the train at the next stop, returned to Memphis, and sued the railroad. The case attracted much attention because whereas the law stated that accommodations should be separate but equal, railroad personnel had insisted that all Negroes ride in the smoking car, which was not a first-class coach. In December 1844, the local court returned a verdict in favor of Ida B. Wells and awarded her $500 in damages. Now, this is 1884, people. The railroad appealed the case. Ida did not give up her resistance to the railroad's policy of forcing Negroes to ride in the separate but unequal coaches. Okay, now that's one excerpt that I wanted to read to you. I want to read another one because I'm not actually reading from her autobiography just yet. I'm reading what people have written about her because I really want to share with you how important she was. They called her militant. They called her aggressive. They called her strong, courageous. I love those adjectives. And for a woman too, hey. All right, here we go. Ida B. Wells will be remembered most for her fight against the lynching of Negroes and for her passionate demand for justice and fair play for them. In the preface to her autobiography, she maintains that a young lady compared her to Joan of Arc. The analogy is at best strained, but the odds against her were in many ways even greater. True enough, Joan was a peasant girl in the time when peasants and girls had nothing to say to the ruling class of France. But Ida B. Wells was a black woman born into slavery who began openly carrying her torch against lynching in the very South, bent upon the degradation of the blacks. Joan had the advantage of rallying a generally sympathetic French people to a common patriotic cause. Ida Wells was not only opposed by whites, but some of her own people were often hostile, impugning her motives, fearful that her tactics and strategy might bring retribution upon them. Some actually repudiated her. Okay, that's rather terrible, but that's what's up. I want to read something else to you that she believed in. Very important. Now, these are Ida B. Wells's words, okay? Oh, I got a couple comments. Let me see what's up here. Oh, J. Ray. Blessings, sister. All right, here we go again. J. Ray, Ida B. Look, gotta know about her, J. Ray. Got to know about her. Spread the word about her to other people that you know, especially young people. Now, check what I'm about to read next. Now, this is Ida B. Wells's own words. She says, "It is therefore for the young people who have so little of our racist history recorded that I am for the first time in my life writing about myself." Hello. Because it is for the purpose of young people who definitely do not know their complete history that Readings with Regina was created, because I definitely want you to know the history of Black resistance in this country. You got heroes you don't even know about. I'm going to make sure that you know about them throughout this time that I do Readings with Regina. All right, so it's about the young people. Now check this. Girlfriend Ida is writing this in the 19th century. She's writing this in the 1880s. I stand or sit before you in 2025. And my vibe and her vibe are just the same. Hello, people. All right, here we go. Let's see, what is this? She also writes, the gallant fight and marvelous bravery of the black men of the South, fighting and dying to exercise and maintain their newborn rights as free men and citizens with little protection from the government which gave them these rights and with no previous training in citizenship. Of course not. They've been enslaved or politics. One more thing I want to say. The history of this entire period, which reflected glory on the race, should be known. This is Ida, yes. Yet most of it is buried in oblivion, and only the Southern white man's misrepresentations are in the public libraries and colleges' textbooks of the land. The black men who made the history of that day were too modest to write about it or did not realize the importance of the written word to their posterity. Sorry. Look, the written word is important. This is why I'm not just preaching. I am reading. Okay, let me show you this next book. Very important. Okay, Charles Chestnutt. He wrote short fiction. Now, he was born in 1858, just a few years before Ida B. Wells. And he was a very light, let me show you him, very light-skinned brother. Very light. Now, why am I pointing that out? Because there were some brothers with his complexion who would pass for white. And Charles Chestnut said, nah, blood, I ain't going that way. I could, but I'm not. In fact, he loved Negro people. He loved his race. And he wrote these wonderful little short fictional stories about black people. And I am going to read one to you. They're very short, but they're very, very powerful. And they show the humanity of black people. Now let me, let's see, on Tuesday I talked about Bob. Bob works in this big grand hotel back in the 1800s. He's an enslaved man and he's a boot black. Like he is to collect the boots of the white men, the lawyers and judges who stay at this hotel. The brother, Bob, was in charge of polishing their boots. But Bob wanted to go to a party. I could dig it. He wanted to go to a party, an illegal party, because black people weren't supposed to have a party. Black people weren't supposed to gather, dig. That was against the law. So he found a pair of black boots. This is Bob now. And he said, boy, these would look good on me. Black resistance. So he took those boots and he thought about the girls he was going to swing around on the dance floor. Yes. So he polished up them boots that belonged to somebody else, a white dude. He put on the boots and went to the party. Now I'm going to start here. The laws forbade any assemblance of the slaves. And when they had their balls, that's the party, prayer meetings, etc., it was customary to station sentinels along the roads and paths which led to the meeting place to watch for the patrol or the patrollers. That's what the enslaved people called the foundational American police. The police were put together in part to make sure that the enslaved people stayed in their place. Some of them mounted, whose special duty it was to keep the slaves under surveillance at night. Bob avoided the patrol by going through the woods, past the sentinels, and was soon swinging the girls around and displaying his new boots. Go ahead, Bob. To the inspiring strains of Camptown Races, here we go, doo-da, doo-da. Now, I know that song. And Old Dan Tucker. I looked up Old Dan Tucker, y'all. Yes, I did. And guess who was singing Old Dan Tucker? Now, this is the 1800s. Guess who was singing Old Dan Tucker in the modern age. Bruce Springsteen. Yes! Put in the search engine. Lord have mercy. Old Dan Tucker and Bruce Springsteen. I like Bruce too. Why am I stopping to say this to you? I'm stopping to say this to you because I want to show you how slavery ain't that far away, people. We still indulge and engage in the culture of slavery. Yes, we do. Now, old Dan Tucker, the song wasn't a bad song. I listened. Bruce was getting down with it. Him and his E Street band, you know what I mean? But the point is, those songs, they come out of the enslavement period. They may have either been written by enslaved people, and white people have incorporated them into their corpus of songs. Isn't that incredible? Now, let me continue. Now, old Dan Tucker, as rendered by the combined exertions of a banjo. Banjo comes from Africa, people. Yo, yes. The banjo comes from Africa. A fiddle, you know about a fiddle, and a pair of bones. Now, you see how ingenious, you see how creative these people were? No, they couldn't have a drum. No, in fact, drums could talk. So drums for white, in white America's lingo, okay, were the kind of instrument that blacks should not have. Because when we were in Africa, we could make the drums talk. See? So white people, enslavers, did not want talking drums over here in America, because if you talk with your drums over here and you enslaved, you might be talking with the drum to get people to fight against their enslaver. So what did the black people do? Since they couldn't have a drum, they used animal bones to get that drum beat. You know how your body reacts when you hear that drum beat? Yes. All right. The fun was at its height when someone dashed up to the door and yelled, "Patrol!" That's the police. Instantly, the candles were blown out. A bucket of water was thrown on the fire, and the crowd rapidly dispersed through the various openings of the cabin. One frightened fellow going out through the big chimney. It was a false alarm given by some ill-natured darky who had not been invited to the party. But Bob did not know this, so he dodged into the bushes, and by cutting across the plantation, kept clear of the paterolas and reached the hotel at about 2 o'clock in the morning. Bob tried to pull off the boots, but either the peculiar conformation of his heel prevented it, or his feet were so swollen by his recent exertions that the boot would not come off. As Bob was very tired and very sleepy, he spread a quilt on the kitchen floor and went to sleep, confident that in the morning the boot would come off without difficulty. The cook, Aunt Liddy, went to the kitchen in the morning to begin preparations for breakfast, and there was Bob, asleep on the floor. She called him, but got only a grunt in response. Finally, a gourd of water thrown into his face brought about the desired result, and Bob got up, rolled up his pallet, and put it away, grumbling at Aunt Liddy's cruelty. Better get long on them black boots, said Aunt Liddy, who was a woman of few words. Wait till I get this boot off, Aunt Liddy, replied Bob. He had pulled off one boot, and as he began an account of the ball the night before, he took hold of the other, with the confident expectation that it would slip off easily. His confidence was somewhat shaken when the boot showed no sign of yielding. He had no better success with a boot jack, and Bob began to get just a little anxious. Breakfast time was drawing near, and the gentlemen would want their boots. One of them came up to the tip of the stairs and called, "Boy!" Squire McKinnon, who was not yet dressed himself, he's the owner of the hotel, heard the call and came to the bedroom door. Well, what is it, Colonel? He asked. Tell that boy to bring me my boots, if you please, Squire. Squire McKinnon went to the back door and called across the yard in his sharp way. Bob! Yo, Bob! I'm going to stop there because I want to leave you all in the suspense of what happens. Let me mark this. To Bob and the boots. Now you see the humor in that. That is Charles Chestnutt. He wrote a whole book. Let me show you the book again. Of wonderful little short vignettes that had to do with humorous events and how we made it through bondage. Because understand, as I talk to you about how terrible slavery was, and it was worse than what I even say. But at the same time, Black people were making culture here in America. Understand? They were making music. They were making dance. You know how you feel when you get on that dance floor and get it on down and do your thing? A dance can take away the blues. A dance can bring you joy. A dance can bring you a partner for life. All right, brothers and sisters, I'm getting ready to leave you for today. And I just want you to know that I want you to read what is on the banner. I really want you to understand your beauty. I really want you to understand that you were sent to earth for a reason. I really want you to understand that you got courage. I really want you to understand that you are living between at a particular time that takes your attention. All right, give it your attention. Don't run away from it. Okay? Think also, one more thing before I go. Think also of what's happening with the Venezuelans. Think about that. Think about that. Okay? Why am I saying that? Because our country is killing people in boats. Can you dig? Now, if they were bringing in drugs, right? Well, why not stop the boat, arrest the people, and show the drugs? No. The United States just drops bombs and kills people. Understand that. And you do have the power to do something about it. All right, folks. I'm going to sign off. J. Ray, many blessings to you, dear. And all of you listening, hey, hit that, what is it, the like button or something. People told me I need to say that. Hit that. It has something to do with the algorithms of YouTube. And do visit my webpage, www.apanthersister.com. Let me see if I can bring that up. I don't think, yeah, I can. Here it is. This is my webpage where you can learn much more about me and get in touch with me should you care to. I love you dearly. Do know that you are prayed for every morning and every night by me. All right, people. Take really good care. I'll see you next Tuesday.